The FIM International 6 Days of Enduro returns to France for the first time since 2001 and to the same venue. Brive-la-Gaillarde is the host city for the 2017 edition of what is often dubbed the Olympics of motorcycling, the oldest off-road event on the calendar. National pride is again on the line in the 92nd edition, in the equivalent of a World Cup competition for the Endurosphere. Competitors will face 3 completely different routes, each setting out from the paddock in Brive, and totalling over 1,000 kilometres. A total of 30 different nations are represented this season, with 19 of them fielding an official team in the World Trophy. For 2 of the favourites, it's a return to the senior category after sitting out the 2016 competition. Winners in 3 consecutive seasons between 2012 and 2014, France line up 2 of their most recent title winners, including 3 times world champion Christophe Nambertin. It's true that we dominated for multiple seasons in the era of 6-rider teams, but in 2015 we had a disqualification that really weighed heavily for the federation, and they decided not to ride last year. But we have a huge motivation to return this season, especially with it being at home, and we really want to win this 6 days. 8 times winners Finland are another of the big-name teams returning for the 2017 World Trophy. Matti Sestila and Eero Remes were members of their 2011 title-winning side on home territory and hope to lift the Blue Cross flag once again this season. A lot has changed since we won in Finland back in 2011. At that time it was 6 riders per team, now only 4. Matti and I did ride in that team, but now we have 2 younger guys, Antti and Henrik. I still think we have a good team though, and we can fight for a medal. The Australian team is proof of the challenge that awaits all of the riders in the forthcoming week. Last season, the men from Down Under entered the competition as favourites and defending champions, but left at the bottom of the pile with 2 retirements in the first 2 days. With several of the major nations retiring from the 2016 competition, the top performers from last season have a tough task attempting to maintain their world ranking. Great Britain are a perfect example. They retained just 1 member of the team that snatched 2nd place last season. The USA ended an historic wait to finally lift the World Trophy at the 91st time of asking last time out, and they are the favourites once again. 3 of their victorious 2016 representatives reprised their roles, including individual winner Taylor Roberts.
After coming off last year winning, there's a lot of pressure on us to come back and win again, especially France always being kind of our top competitor, and now we're in their home country. They have a really solid team, but honestly, our team this year is really good. Even the best guys on the team, I think, are riding better than they were last year.
The American outfit will also be among the contenders in the Junior World Trophy, having finished runners-up last season. 2014 Junior winner Grant Baylor is this year joined by Lane Michael, who steps back down from the senior side as a reigning World Trophy winner. Four different teams have claimed top spot in the last 4 seasons. Such is the turnover at junior level. But with 2 of their title-winning 2016 riders returning, it's hard to bet against Sweden retaining the crown. Mikael Persson and Albin Ellison were lead members of the team that won by less than a minute last time out. Albin and I have been doing really well in the junior class in the World Championship, and our 3rd rider Joachim has been doing great in the European rounds. So I think we have a good team again this year, and we'll be looking for a strong result. But you can never expect to win. There are a lot of top teams. France and Australia are the only teams to have held all 3 trophies simultaneously. But in recent seasons, the French outfit have had to watch on as Australia dominates the Women's World Trophy. Their lineup remains unchanged for a 5th successive season.
We're a good team. I love my teammates. We work together well, and it's been an awesome time these last 4 years. So hopefully we can make it 5 in a row. We're all pretty strong. Gemma just won the Australian title, and Jessie's winning the European over in America. So we're all pretty good and ready to go racing here.
The week is officially opened with the traditional parade of all of the competing nations, an opportunity for them to be met and greeted by the fans who will follow the event throughout the week. The opening ceremony features over 800 riders who are taking part, making Brive-la-Gaillarde 2017's Enduro capital. The FIM International 6 Days of Enduro got underway for the 7th time in France, one of the spiritual homes of the sport. Enduro is the discipline in which I started out, and above all, it's the one that I prefer. I've always had one foot in Enduro and continue to follow it. So for me, of course, it's important to be present. I have to say, the 6 days is a very challenging race, but also one in which there's a lot of emotion. I'm very proud to be associated with this event. 3 different nations came into the opening day of the defence of their World Trophy titles, preparing for a staggered departure from Brive-la-Gaillarde. The first course saw the riders track into the Vallée de la Dordogne as far east as Aurillac, before returning for the final test of the day. The USA's World Trophy title defence failed in the opening special, with a fall for Tad Duval and his subsequent injury withdrawal that left the remaining American trio competing solely for individual glory.
Thad Duval, one of our top riders, went down in the first test, broke his wrist. He's already gone home to see about getting it repaired and fixed. And it was a tough one, both for the team. Everybody took it pretty hard.
Italy also suffered a disastrous opening day that left them recovering for the rest of the week. A 21-minute penalty applied to Giacomo Redondi left them down in 14th position. With Davide Ganeri as high as 4th in the standings, though, there were strong early signs of speed from the Italians. The top 4 teams were the standout performers in the battle for the podium positions on the opening day. Spain sat an isolated 4th early on, over 2 minutes clear of their nearest rivals, but well back from the leaders. Josep Garcia, their top performer, but recovering from outside of the individual top 10. Australia were restricted to just 3rd position on the opening day, their entire quartet off the pace set by the slowest representative of early lead team France. Daniel Milner topped the Australian timesheets on each of the 6 days of competition. The standout star from Down Under, 2nd in E2. Finland pulled off the surprise of the opening day, a highly creditable 2nd place and 26 seconds up on Australia. Eero Remes was Finland's best performer throughout the competition, and he was well supported on the opening day by his 3 teammates. France consolidated their status as pre-event favourites by taking a comfortable Day 1 win. 2 minutes clear of Finland, with all 4 of their representatives in the top 10 individually. Loïc Larieux finished outright fastest, setting up an individual battle with Christophe Nambertin, who won 2 of the first 5 tests. We have 4 French riders in the top 6 in the scratch, so that's great for the team. But these days there's no joker, so everyone has to get to the finish. We're in the battle at the front, so we have to be careful to separate the individual wars and the team's fight. We have to finish each day, get the right results, then on Wednesday and Thursday the terrain will be to our liking. Behind the breakaway top 3 group, 2016 runners-up Great Britain enjoyed a disappointing day down in 7th, Portugal best of the rest in 5th. A close opening day in the Junior World Trophy saw the top 4 teams home separated by less than a minute. Home team France got off to a solid start in the middle of that pack, ahead of the USA, who suffered a surprisingly subdued start. Italy got the better of the hosts by just 3 seconds on the opening day for second. An outstanding individual performance from Davide Sareka making the difference for them. But the performance of Italy's top star was balanced out by Sweden's Alvin Ellison, second fastest junior as the reigning champions built up an early lead. Seeing off the attentions of 3 teams packed closely behind, Sweden amassed a 28-second advantage on the opening day. It's been quite good for me. I finished second overall in the first test today, and I'm really happy about that. I've been running quite solidly, but on the enduro test I caught 5 or 6 riders and lost a bit too much time. But the rest of the tests were okay, and with the dust it was more or less the same for everybody. The top 7 teams remained in serious contention after an opening day that saw them separated by less than 3 minutes. Chile, Spain and Great Britain in the chasing pack. Day 1 set up the Women's World Trophy as a straight shootout between Spain and Australia. But the reigning champions could only manage second as their rivals took a 42-second lead. Australia's top performer Tyler Jones was a distant runner-up to Spain's Laia Sanz, despite finishing fastest in the final test. Meanwhile, Mireia Badia had a strong enough first day to balance out Jessica Gardner, and it was the individual efforts of Laia Sanz that therefore enabled Spain to take such a commanding lead. I'm surprised to have started as well as we have, but it's only the first day. Of course, it's great to start with such an advantage. I'm very happy with the team's hard work with Mireia and Gabby, and I'm pleased to be in front in the individual as well. We'll try to continue building this advantage, but it's a good way to start. The podium challengers splintered into 2 clear battles on the opening day. The USA over 2 minutes back from Australia and less than half a minute clear of France in third. The riders repeated the same eastern loop of the region for a second day running over 200 kilometres. But with the most well-worn parts of the test now posing more significant challenges, Day 2 proved another bike and rider breaking mission. After 4 retirements on the opening day, the World Trophy claimed another victim on Day 2, with Spain dropping out of contention for a podium place following the 4th special and the retirement of Cristobal Guerrero. We didn't want to attack, we were trying to put in a conservative race, but in one of the enduro tests, Cristobal fell down a drop because of the dust and broke the whole clutch system, including the master cylinder. Without the clutch, he couldn't get out and continue properly. Spain's Iberian rivals Portugal were the first team to benefit, but their lack of outright pace left them battling with Great Britain throughout the week over 4th and waiting for further retirements to have a hope of a podium place. After their impressive early exploits, Finland dropped to 3rd overall second time out after finishing only 4th fastest on Day 2. The key rider as the week went on for the 2011 champions was veteran Matti Sestala, who gradually recovered pace on his international comeback ride. Australia finished almost 2 minutes faster than Finland to overhaul them for second position. A stronger day for Daniel Sanders in particular making the difference. Daniel Milner continued to impress, 4th fastest individually to remain their top performer. France opened their lead over Australia to a mammoth 5 minutes with another consistent day in the timings for their representatives. Christophe Nambertin missed the opportunity to move top individually after losing time in the final special. Teammate Loïc Larieux ahead and the USA's Taylor Roberts behind. All 4 riders made it back to Parc Fermé, which really is the priority. Also, we've made more ground on our rivals, so in terms of the team, some great work. And in the individual as well, each rider has worked hard and we're in good position, so that's good news for what's to come. Italy finished second fastest on day 2 and began to recover ground lost through an early penalty for Giacomo Redondi, realistically targeting 4th overall. The top 3 teams already over 7 minutes clear of the rest at a 3rd race distance. Following the elimination of the reigning World Trophy champions on day 1, the Junior World Trophy was also guaranteed a new winner in 2017 after leader Sweden dropped out of contention. Mikael Persson was the highest profile of 5 junior riders who retired on day 2. The Swedish team therefore finishing the week in 10th. Day 1 runners-up Italy were unable to capitalise on the early leader's retirement as they finished 3rd at the second time of asking, and their mere 3-second advantage over France was quickly eroded. Struggle for Andrea Verona in particular cost Italy, leaving them 3rd overall. France took 2nd on day 2, moving to within 3 seconds of the overall lead in the process. Another solid performance from the 3 home representatives saw them match their consistent day 1 efforts, with their time separated by less than 10 seconds at the end of the day. But the focus was on an impressive response from Team USA, who moved from 4th to 1st, albeit by an excruciatingly close margin over their 2 nearest rivals. The outstanding pace of Joshua Toth, second fastest junior, was backed up capably by Lane Michael as a near 1-minute margin was overturned.
My teammates, I think they rode solid all day and stayed consistent, so we're all still in it, and that's the main goal to make it to the end. So so day was so-so. Tracks are definitely beat. Definitely looking forward to a couple new ones tomorrow. We'll just kind of go walk a couple tests this evening here and then get ready for tomorrow.
Great Britain were best of the rest with 4th on day 2, moving from 7th to 5th in the process. Meanwhile, at the top of the table, 3 teams separated by just 20 seconds after the retirement of Sweden, and with the USA making up ground. The Women's World Trophy also lost its day 1 leader, Spain suffering a double retirement that ended their challenge. Mireia Badia didn't even make it out of the first special before suffering a suspected broken shoulder, and Gabriela Seis-Dedos retired after the 3rd special. With their main rivals out of contention, Australia added a further 3 minutes to their commanding lead. The only sign of weakness in their side was an opening day injury to Jessica Gardner, who rode through the pain barrier to keep herself on track.
Did this little injury to my finger 3rd corner, first test yesterday. So already yesterday was a long, tough day for me. I stuck it out and I got painkillers about 2 hours after I'd broken my finger. So after that settled down a bit, I could get through the day.
France snatched 3rd position with Spain's drop through the field, leaving the host nation with a provisional podium ranking in all 3 World Trophy classifications, a 3rd of the way through the 2017 FIM International 6 Days of Enduro. The Club World Trophy captures the spirit of the FIM 6 Days of Enduro, with a mixture of amateur and professional riders coming together with the aim of completing the week on the same course as the 3 World Trophy categories.
I'm Gerard de Bello from South Africa. I'm racing for a team from England, A1 Group, representing South Africa. I think to all riders, I think the ISDE is probably the pinnacle of all racing events. Although we're club riders, not as good as the world's best, but it's fun to be riding in the same terrain as them and mixing it up with them a little bit.
My name is Sergio Favela. I'm number 841 from Club Mexico. Enjoying yourself and the camaraderie between riders are very important in this sport. Compared with other world-level sports, this is the only one in which you can compete as an amateur. So the experience and what you learn is huge and something you can take back to people from your own country. That way you can encourage more people to come to Europe and compete. The really great thing is that you can live the life of the professionals, riding through where they have already been. A total of over 400 club riders took to the start line in Brive-la-Gaillarde, among them some well-known cross-discipline riders taking on their first 6 days, mixed with some experienced veterans of the World Trophy.
Hi, I'm Tom Sager from MCC of Wales, and I'm riding C2 class. I think riding in the British team, which I've done the whole time I've rode, the 9 times I've rode in the 6-day competition, it's quite difficult. Obviously, you want the team to have a good result, but for me, you know, the club team this year, there's not so much pressure.
My name is Tyler Medaglia. My experience in enduro is mainly like the GNCCs in the US. I've had a lot to learn this last week with everyone telling me how to do the tests and how it's like to get through the transfers is a little bit different than, you know, like a hare scramble race where you're on the gas all the time. But you know, I'd like to get a good experience with the guys that we're with this year, and hopefully to, you know, turn some heads and you know, finish the event and do well, so that way we can fight for a championship and then maybe move up to World Trophy and be a contender in that class as well.
I'm Cody Webb from USA, and you know, I'm here racing 6 days in France on the club team and C3 on the KTM 300. You know, first time here and being able to come as a club rider, it's great, you know, because I can still come and do the same event that the World Trophy guys do and gain valuable experience and feel like I'm part of the program and learn a lot and enjoy my time here for the first time racing 6 days. The times will be a little bit slower than the World Trophy, but I think the gap will be close because there's so many riders that don't quite make it to the trophy team, but they're just a little bit off the top rise, and I think you're going to see some good rides from a lot of the club riders this year.
Host commune Vallée de la Corrèze was the scene of day 3, again over 200 kilometres, but now on shorter, predominantly grass specials, which were expected to suit the French teams. Finland showed further progress on day 3 as their times were the closest they had been to leaders France, but they nonetheless dropped further back in 3rd overall, with a 4th place finish in the day's standings. Both of the team's rising stars finished within a minute of their more experienced former trophy-winning teammates. Meanwhile, the gap between the top 2 outfits passed the 5-minute mark for the first time at the week's halfway stage, with only one of the French representatives beaten by members of the Australian team. Daniel Milner continued to lead Australia's charge from 5th place individually, while his teammate Daniel Sanders enjoyed his best day of the competition. Jeremy Tarou got day 3 off to a perfect start for France with his first special win, but France's advantage on a new course was limited by a first test error from Christophe Nambertin. Nonetheless, the hosts gained a further minute over their nearest rivals, and with the individual leader as well in Loïc Larieux, looked comfortable at the half-race distance. It's been a good day overall for the French team. We expected a lot from this day on the fresh grass. We all started at the front, which wasn't necessarily an advantage today because the grass in the specials was slippery. But if we're first away, that means we're top of the standings, so that's a good thing. Italy's recovery from a day 1 penalty moved them as high as 7th. Their only remaining contest was over the minor positions behind the top 3 nations, starting to spread out, 9 minutes clear of the chasing pack. 3 junior World Trophy contenders came into the 3rd day, separated by just over 15 seconds, and it was the USA's overall lead that proved short-lived, with a 3rd different team topping the timesheets. A 1-minute penalty for Josh Toth left the USA just 5th on the day, 2 minutes back from the other podium challengers overall. Despite topping the timesheets for a 3rd day, Davide Soreka struggled for consistency in the Vallée de la Corrèze, and the Italian trio therefore failed to capitalise fully on the USA's penalty. 2nd position on day 3, though, was enough to return them to their original ranking overall. But it was France who really started to take control in the competition's midweek phase as they topped the day's results for the first time. Leading the timesheets by a 27-second margin, the hosts also moved into top spot in the overall, with Italy dropping 40 seconds in arrears. We've climbed quite well in the standings. For the moment, we're being pretty careful. We're comfortable on grass, so we aren't too close to the limit. And so I think the coming days will be good.
Je pense que pour les jours à venir, ça va être pas mal.
Great Britain put in their best performance of the week and broke into the day's top 3 for the first time, moving into 4th and above Chile overall. But they remained well back from the USA, who had dropped back to 3rd. After Spain's Day 2 disaster, and with 1 dropped rider per team, the Women's World Trophy rankings looked settled, barring further retirements. But France were left in the greatest danger after they lost their opening day's strongest performer, Samantha Tichet, leaving Audrey Roussat to pick up the pieces. Samantha fell in one of the transitions and cut open her arm. She had some stitches put in and it seemed okay for her to continue, but it became infected and the doctors recommended that she retire. So she went to the hospital, they removed the infection, but obviously it wasn't possible for her to return. The USA had also gained from Spain's retirement and sat in an isolated 2nd position, with Rebecca Sheets recovering well from her Day 1 retirement and offering consistent support to her successful teammate, Brandy Richards. Australia took a 2nd consecutive day win by half a minute to claim a near 6-minute advantage overall. In the individual, Tyler Jones continued unsuccessfully to pursue Laya Sanz, while her teammate Gemma Wilson had a tougher day, receiving a 2-minute penalty at the 2nd time check.
Yeah, I know that I'm there for a purpose if something does happen to Taylor or Des, but at this point, yeah, they're killing it. Especially, Taylor up against Leia is pretty great, and Jess riding so well with broken finger is pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be a part of this team. They're wonderful.
Italy enjoyed their best day of the week and the only occasion they beat Sweden, who remained 4th. The spread of the rest of the teams gradually extended as the competition moved into the second half of the week. A third different route in 4 days saw the riders track north for the first time into the Vallée de la Vézère, well supported by local crowds with home teams leading in 2 of the 3 World Trophy categories. After recovering as high as 7th, Italy's week ended in disappointment, with the retirement of Thomas Oldrati that left his teammates circulating alone. After a fall at the last motocross test yesterday, he reported a big bruise on his left wrist. But after checkups, we found out that he's actually suffered a small, painful fracture, and of course he isn't able to continue. Day 4 seemingly settled the battle of best of the rest for 4th in favour of Portugal. Although Great Britain put in their best result of the week, beating the Portuguese for the first time, and with Nathan Watson as high as 5th individually, they remained 5 minutes in arrears, with only 1 full day remaining. The top 3 positions also remained unchanged, albeit with Finland making up ground in the battle for 2nd overall, as the 2nd fastest World Trophy team on day 4. A strong start to the day for Eero Remes saw him finish a minute faster than any of his teammates and enabled the Finns to reduce the gap by 30 seconds. Each of the top 2 teams, meanwhile, suffered an injury that added some extra spice to the podium fight, just as the positions had started to settle down. Daniel Sanders finished slowest of the Australians on day 4 after a crash in the latter stages of the day that left him in clear discomfort and unable to even make his end-of-day tyre change. Meanwhile, for France, it was Christophe Nambertin who came off worse for wear, finishing 73rd and 78th in the final test, carrying a hand injury after an earlier fall. Those results left him out of contention for individual victory, but also left his further participation in doubt, putting at risk France's mammoth 7-minute lead despite a 4th consecutive day victory.
Daniel's obviously had a crash there. We think it's probably initially thought to be worse than what it really is. He's just gone back to the hotel now, and I walked back with him from the Parc Fermé, and he was walking okay. He ended up not changing a tyre this afternoon, but there's plenty of time to reassess and go with things for tomorrow. So looking positive about it. Yep.
Although over 8 minutes now separated the top 3 teams with only 1 full day remaining, injuries to Daniel Sanders of Australia and Christophe Nambertin of France left chasing teams with a glimmer of hope in the closing stages. In an incredible 4th day of competition, the top 4 teams in the Junior Trophy were separated by less than 20 seconds. Great Britain enjoyed their best performance of the week but still finished 4th, the ranking they occupied overall to the end of the week. But the other three contenders kept themselves in with a shot of overall victory as they were separated by less than 5 seconds on day 4. The American trio finished just 0.07 of a second short of the leaders and remained outsiders, still 2 minutes behind overall. Italy also performed well enough to keep their hopes alive, but finishing third on the day, they were left with a 45-second deficit to top spot. Andrea Verona enjoyed his best result of the week as the second fastest junior, getting the better of teammate Davide Sareka for the first time. After their day 3 games, France consolidated their top ranking with a second day win, albeit by a tiny margin after a troubled day for their previous top rider Hugo Blanjou.
It's been good for France, our team is still ahead, but for me it was more difficult today. I fell 3 times in 5 specials, which is too much, but it will be better tomorrow.
3 fois en 5 spéciales, donc ça fait beaucoup. Bon, ça sera mieux demain.
With just 5 seconds separating the top 3 teams on day 5, there was little movement in the Junior World Trophy overall. France remaining on top, with time running out for Italy and the USA to make up lost ground. With gaps of at least 5 minutes between each of the top 6 teams, only misfortune in the second half of the competition could realistically make any change to the pecking order. But the individual classification also provided some interest, with Brandy Richards third to Laia Sanz and Tyler Jones. Jones enjoyed her best result of the week on day 4, getting the better of Laia Sanz for a second time and reducing the Spaniards' individual lead to below a minute. And with 1 dropped rider per day in the women's format, Australia's 7-minute gap looked unassailable.
Yeah, for sure. Australia have a strong lead at the moment, so we're just going to try and stay consistent. Hopefully, not doing anything silly to cost us the title. But yeah, so far so good, and I'm happy with where I'm sitting. I made up some ground today on the overall, so we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
Aside from each of the top 3 teams needing to bring 3 of their 4 riders home each day, the remaining interest in the Women's World Trophy was provided by the individual battle, with Australia seemingly set for a 5th title. The 2017 FIM Enduro Vintage Trophy is the second staging of a competition that brings veteran riders from around the globe back to their roots on classic machines.
When I
was young, I rode for Ossa in the Spanish and European Championships with this model. I have such good memories of that time that I really enjoy getting out on it. If you look around at all of the spectators here, they're enjoying seeing these bikes. So the fact that we appear at the 6 days is a great initiative. I live in Auvergne, so not very far at all, and I thought if I don't have a go this time, I never will. It's a great chance for us to show off our bikes. I'm 55 years old, so these are the bikes we dreamed of when we were 20. Now we can buy one and ride. Also, they're quite easy machines, which are quite flexible but also powerful. They're quite easy to maintain if looked after, the ideal bike. In my generation, when I was a boy, these were the bikes to have. But when I was young, I couldn't afford anything like this. It was too expensive. So it's a childhood dream that I'm now fulfilling. It's incredible, 40 years later, to do something like this, and the bike is still like that. It's really fabulous.
On se disait, tu te rends compte, 40 ans après, tu fais un truc comme ça avec une moto comme ça, c'est vraiment fabuleux, quoi.
Alongside over 100 European riders taking part, the event brings together more exotic locations as well, with a rising entry, for example, of competitors from Canada. There are more and more people buying classics and racing vintage everywhere in the world. There are lots of races in Canada, and I actually organise races there. We have about 200 riders. We really have a great opportunity now to ride vintage, so I can only hope that it continues. The bike is 100% made in Quebec. It's one of the first to have some real power. The special thing about it is the rotary valve on the side, which gives power at the low range, mid-range and top end. There's very little suspension compared to a modern bike, and it's somewhat heavy compared to the others, but I have plenty of traction in the corners, so it's good in that sense. I wanted to discover the sensations of a classic bike compared to a modern bike, what feeling you have. So I thought I would try it out, and what I've learned is that the older riders had to be really very good to ride these bikes.
Les anciennes personnes étaient vraiment très bonnes pour piloter ces machines-là.
I'm very happy because I normally ride in the USA, so it's a good opportunity to come here and show everyone what my bike is capable of doing at world level here. To get to the top, Canadian riders will have to get the better of the top performers from the 2016 Vintage Trophy, who continue their participation this season, including last year's runner-up, Ángel Varela. We're all here to have fun, but ultimately we all want to win. It's true that in terms of competition, we all get a thrill, and particularly with a classic bike, it's about trying to relive the feelings you had when you were young and riding the Spanish Championship. So it's like going back in a time machine.
Intentamos un poco volver con la máquina del tiempo para atrás.
Repeating the Day 4 course and specials, the riders headed into the Vallée de la Vézère for the second time for the last full day of competition. With the top two World Trophy teams now carrying an injured rider, Finland had hoped to take advantage from third position, but they were unable to maintain the pace of the lead pair and were left instead waiting on incidents for their main rivals. A consistent and incident-free week nonetheless left them within touching distance of their podium target, but having lost a further minute to Australia, their hopes of climbing further were realistically over. Daniel Sanders battled successfully to the end of the final full day with a strapped-up right arm, and even finished his team's second fastest representative. A relief for Australia, with Finland close enough to take advantage of any impact the injury may have had. With only the cross test remaining, a gap of over a minute now looked unassailable. France suffered their first defeat of the week on day 5 with injured Christophe Nambertin riding well down the order simply to get the team home. With the former world champion short of his usual pace, the hosts were beaten by almost 30 seconds by Australia, but nonetheless maintained 7 minutes of their commanding margin to make a first title since 2014 a near certainty. It's been a very tough day today. We are very tired, and so are the bikes and bodies. We have really just managed this day, and now the target is to maintain this advantage to the end of the week.
Et maintenant, le but, c'est de rester avec cette avance jusqu'à la fin de la semaine.
The closest day of the week saw France beaten for the first time and the top 3 teams separated by less than a minute. But providing each team could bring all of their riders home, the World Trophy podium was already settled. By contrast, the Junior World Trophy was far more competitive, and on day 5, the top 3 teams were separated by less than 30 seconds. After a day 3 penalty, the USA had needed to make up large margins, clearly impossible against such consistent competition, and they had to settle for 3rd position. A slow start to day 5 for Davide Sareka meant Italy's challenge was left to a late bid. 22-year-old bouncing back to help his team eat into the advantage held by France up front. Having been beaten by the leaders on all but the first day, gaining 16 seconds on them was a real achievement from Italy, but they were nonetheless left 28 seconds behind, with only the final cross-test remaining. A more defensive ride from France saw them miss out on top spot for the first time since day 2, but they nonetheless maintained the majority of their leading margin to carry into the final cross-test, having lost just 16 seconds to main rivals Italy.
Every day, 3 or 4 teams have fought with nothing in it, which is good because we're caught up within that. But we can't afford any mistakes, and now we can't wait for the end of the week because we're really starting to mark time. Italy became the 4th different team to top the results in 5 days, pushing the decider for the junior trophy title down to the final cross-test, with less than 30 seconds between the top 2 teams. The Women's World Trophy offered one further surprise on the penultimate day, the USA finishing top by 15 seconds. Not enough to eat into Australia's 7-minute lead, but an impressive performance nonetheless against the champions-elect. And with the trophy title looking settled in favour of the women from Down Under for a 5th successive season, the individual standings also appeared decided on the last full day. Tyler Jones could only finish 3rd fastest behind the impressive Brandy Richards, enabling Laia Sands to add a further minute to her leading margin.
Yeah, definitely. I had way too many crashes today, but our team's still on top going into the final moto, and we can't really lose it now, so that's always a plus, and we'll just go out there and have some fun tomorrow.
Minimising incidents once main rivals Spain were eliminated with a double retirement, Australia were now within touching distance of the Women's World Trophy, needing just 2 of their 3 riders to complete the final test. The week reached its conclusion with the final cross-test in Brive-la-Gaillarde, the traditional closure of the event. For the leaders in the World and Women's Trophy, the race amounted to little more than a lap of honour, with only limited opportunities for teams to make up ground over 10-minute races, barring any major incidents. The Junior World Trophy, though, was far closer and set to be decided in the last race of the week, the final motocross test. The closest individual battles in the E1 category ahead of the last day were in the lower reaches of the top 10, with Josep Garcia almost a minute clear and 2nd in the overall. The focus was on the Italian Junior Trophy team, with 2 of their representatives, Davide Serreca and Andrea Verona, lining up against French junior Jeremy Miroir with ground to make up. It was 2015 individual winner Ryan Sykes, 3rd in E1 coming into the test, who threatened to steal the show with the fastest start. But Josep Garcia, trapped back in 5th on the first turn, worked his way spectacularly through the field. The Spaniard first blasting past Australia's Josh Green for 3rd, then Era Remes for 2nd, and eventually Ryan Sykes for an incredible win. The remainder of the race went disastrously wrong for Remes, who nonetheless became the first World Trophy rider home for Finland as they closed in on a podium place. The moment belonged to Josep Garcia, whose time went on to give him an outright 6th test victory of the week. Ryan Sykes behind took 2nd in E1 from Davide Guarneri, proving that position changes are still possible in the final test. Davide Serreca and Andrea Verona both finished inside the top 10 and crucially above Jeremy Miroir, helping Italy to close further in the Junior World Trophy with 2 races remaining. Hugo Blanjou was therefore in focus for the E2 finale, with a head-to-head decider between his teammate Anthony Geslin and Italy's Matteo Cavaglio set up for E3. Meanwhile, Loic Larrieur's E2 victory, and therefore the overall individual win, is the mere formality of completing the race thanks to an impressive leading margin of over 50 seconds at the end of day 5. Larrieur nonetheless swiftly took control of the race, blasting clear of Alex Salvini, who initially held 2nd, and Nathan Watson, who passed him as the laps counted down. But not to be outdone by the excitement of the E1 finale, the E2 riders also provided last lap drama. With outright leader Larrieur falling on the last bend, Nathan Watson poised to pounce, taking top spot, and the Frenchman dropping back to 5th.
First major error of the week from Loic Larieux, who really came into his own in the demanding second half of the week and was almost untouchable on day 5. He secured the individual win over Josep Garcia by a 38-second margin. Seventh position for Hugo Blanjou in a time faster than either of the Italians in E1 helped France put one hand on the Junior World Trophy. With 30 seconds still separating France from Italy in the Junior World Trophy, Matteo Carvalho was left the impossible task of chasing a mammoth victory margin over Anthony Geslin in the final race of the day. Meanwhile, in the E3 rankings, the closest fight was for third overall between Daniel Sanders and Matti Sestola. In fact, it was the Finn who took the whole shot in the race and who maintained his lead initially under pressure from Jaume Betriu. The Spaniard fought his way past briefly after a small error from leader Sestola, but the veteran carved his way back past in an entertaining early race scrap. Betriu eventually found a way to take and consolidate the lead position, while Sestola began to slip backwards, eventually finishing third and making back just 5 of the 17 seconds needed in his battle with Daniel Sanders. Taylor Roberts worked his way through to second behind Betriu, the American and Spaniard finishing in reverse order to their top 2 finish in the overall. But the team focus was further back down the order, where Anthony Geslin did enough in 9th position to limit the damage of Matteo Carvalho's 4th place finish and claim victory for France in the Junior World Trophy. And needing simply to finish, injured hero Christophe Nambertin did enough to complete the host nation's World Trophy comeback win by completing the race, albeit officially classified 24th and leaving France just 3rd on the day. An incredible finish to the Junior World Trophy, Italy falling just over 15 seconds short despite the late efforts of Matteo Carvalho, with France holding on to the top step of the podium. It's been a great victory for my teammates and I. We weren't expecting to be in this position this evening. All 3 of us were consistent throughout. We were under a lot of pressure today to get this result, so we're really happy, and it's been a delight to ride in front of the French fans. A first junior title for France since 2013 produces a 4th different winner in 4 seasons in the Junior World Trophy, as the hosts take over from Sweden following their retirement earlier in the week. And France also lift the World Trophy in their comeback season, 3 years on from their last victory. We certainly felt we had some revenge to exact after 2015, where the team felt victory was taken away from them. We really wanted to win this edition, and all of the riders have done their best. It truly is a wonderful victory in front of the French fans. For the 3rd time on home soil, France celebrate victory in the FIM International 6 Days of Enduro. Meanwhile, for Loic Larieux, team success is made sweeter by an impressive individual win. The Women's World Trophy result looked settled already ahead of the final cross test, with the dropped rider rule acting as security for each of the 3 teams occupying provisional podium positions and enabling the women riders to enjoy their final outing in front of the French spectators. Canadians women motocross champion Shelby Turner took the whole shot to frustrate the early challenge of the pace-setting USA and Australian women, but dropped gradually back to an eventual 4th position, her best test result of the week. Women's individual leader Laia Sanz, winner of more than half of the specials coming into her less favoured motocross test, was next to lead, pursued relentlessly by Brandy Richards and Australia's Tyler Jones, closing after moving through into the top 3 positions. Richards, looking for a 3rd test win of a gradually improving week, became the 3rd different race leader when she carved her way past Laia Sanz, the Spaniard unable to recover and seemingly settling for 2nd place. There was a final twist to the race that set up a grandstand finale. The top 3 bunched together by a crash for Richards up front, but the American swiftly recovered as each of the top 3 were left with something to celebrate. For Brandy Richards, the final checkered flag of the Women's World Trophy. For Laia Sanz, the individual gold. And for Tyler Jones and the Australian team, a 5th consecutive World Trophy.
Hey, John!
The USA snatched their 2nd day win thanks to the efforts of Brandy Richards, with backup from Rebecca Sheets in 5th. But the Australian trio made it successfully home to seal yet another crown.
So here we are, we're the 3 winners this year in France for the 5th time in a row, which is exceptional. We're all really stoked, we're really happy, and it's been us 3 girls since the whole 5 years, so it couldn't have been better. We have to thank our whole of Team Australia for being right behind us, all the supporters, even all the French public here was really cool for us, and you know, it's been a wonderful adventure all together, and we couldn't be more proud and happy for our country.
So it's au revoir and à bientôt from France as the 3 World Trophy winners look forward to defending their titles in Chile come October 2018.